Okay, plate development level 3, triangulation. A lot of you know this for square to rounds or round to squares, however you want to say that. So whether the big end is square or the big end is round. So how is that funneling that in? So here's a picture at the front here of a square to round. And we're actually going to start off with the opposite, where the square is the small end and the round is the big end. Another good spot for information on this, again, we always revert back to this, the IPT's book here, the training manual. And in section 4, there is a layout section. We use this for parallel line, then radial line. Then just keep going through the book, and then there's a triangulation section. So this is not really overly complicated, this triangulation, for the basics. But as soon as you start to slope the top or slope the bottom, or both, and then start to put it off center in one way or two ways, then it becomes quite busy. That's when it becomes quite difficult. And then also you can do this on square to squares, as you can see, or you can also do this even on a round to round or an offset round to round. So triangulation does work for even where radial line works. It just takes longer. But generally we do this where parallel line and radial line will not work. So this is the last resort. Let's go ahead, we'll jump in here. So as like always, we always try to minimize the drawing, meaning the layout. So do we need the full front and the full top? Well, no, we don't. So let's have a look here. So here's the page. This is 11 by 17, squared up with your T-square. We've got the brown paper in the back just to support the paper for when I'm using my dividers. So over here I've just drawn half of this front view. So 140 here, just gone with the 70, and we're 120 high. So we're 120. And as always, we try to keep it over to the left and pretty far down with the baseline. If we don't have to circle anything off the bottom, we'll keep it tight. So 10 millimeters for this one to the baseline, and 10 millimeters here just for this other center line going up the vertical there. We only just left 10 millimeters between the two pieces, so kept them pretty tight together. We've got the 70 mil radius here, and there's a 25 by 25 square right here, because as you can see here, it's a 50 by 50 for the top. Okay, so there's the start there. Okay, that's all we need for that, and then we'll get going on this here. We'll do the pattern over here, we'll do a full pattern, and we need a true length diagram. Now let's talk about the true lengths here. So this technically would be a true length of this side right here. Okay, so we can number these 1, 2, 3, and then we need to divide these out as well. Let's go ahead and divide this. So take this radius again as usual, as we've done in parallel line and radial line. Make a mark, come over from center, put your point on the quadrant there, make another mark. Okay, we don't really need to draw lines up there. You can if you like, that's not really necessary. We'll call this A, and we'll call this B. This would actually be the same over here as well. Same with over here. I could have actually numbered that 1 and then numbered that 1 as well, because this would then be B and this would be the same length. Nothing's off center here. Everything's on center. Everything's square. I'm just going to put a 1 here to change that back up. Okay, those are all the same length. From there, we're basically ready to do our true length diagram. I guess this is it, one here, but we'll actually make a true length diagram. So let's go ahead, we'll put up a vertical line. I'm just going to come about 10 millimeters off this object. And then the height of the square. I'm just going to bring that over. So obviously 1 and 2 will be up here, and A and B will be down below. So let's go ahead and take from A to 2, because A to 1 is already this length here. So we really don't need to do it again. So there's A, and there's 1 at the top. So let's go ahead, take the distance of A2, and put it down here on this true length diagram. Okay, so this one here would be A. And let's go ahead and do B. It's going to be a little shorter. Right, and then there's B. Here's another way to look at this one. Number 1 to A, if you took that distance, would be the same as this distance here. The A, if you drop the 1 down, it would be the same. Right, so at that point there, that becomes a true length. So we'll just go ahead and we'll just write on here true length. Diagram is what it's called. And then we're essentially ready to just start making our pattern over here. Okay, so let's start with our true length here. 1, so we'll start 1 in the center. Really doesn't matter how we kind of pull that over or whatnot, but because they're all kind of the same, but we'll just call this 1 here. And let's just come down to A. I'm going to grab my other dividers that are a little bit quicker to open. Stick that on A, up to 1, go from 1, we'll make a mark here. Simple as that. That's A. We need to go find B. So what are we going to do? We're going to take that chord distance, probably not a great idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 140 times pi equals, right? So let's write this down. 140 times pi. This equals 440. And we're going to divide this by 12. So we can get this arc segment here. $36.6. Even 0.7, I guess. Something like that. So that's the arc length. So what we need to do, we're going to set our dividers to 36, almost 37, because it's going to be a little longer, so 37 would be good. Make sure you put that right on 0. 37 right there. From A, we're going to step off. Okay, this is not super accurate. What we can do is we can readjust at the end if we need to make this a little bit wider. Right? Okay, so this is going to be 2 over here. Call this 2 over here, and we'll do the little wings as 1. Okay, so what do we have here? We're coming off of A, we got 1. So now we need to come over to B, and we can come from A2 comes up over, that would be a true length, A2, and then B down here, so 2 down to B. So there's 2, we're coming down to B for a true length. Okay, so there's 1 and 2 would be at the top. Down to, we're just connecting the dots here is all we're doing. Right from the top there down to B. Gotta keep my hands out of the way here. I know there's a little bit of shadows, but we'll deal with these. Okay, so we got B and B. Now we need to step off again, right? So it's always nice to have the two dividers. So for this one here, we're going to step off again. Just double checking to make sure nothing moved there. There's B, coming off to B. Okay. We're going to come back down because this is the same, right? 2 to B, 2 to B, right? See some similarities here. Move over to the other two. We're going to do a full pattern. Just because. We're going to step off one more time. And we're going to be going for A. Okay, we're going to go from the top, call that 2, down to A. Right there. Come over here, we'll come down. Same with the other side. Right there. Call that A. Now we need to go up and find these little wings. So we're going to use this 25 mil over here and we're going to step off and then we're going to step up. So set these to the 25. I'm just going to use my drawing over here. Set that to the drawing. Over onto 2. Strike a fairly big arc because you're not quite sure where that's going to land. Construction lines always make them a little big. I'm using a 2 big B pencil here, so it's pretty dark so it picks up so you're able to see. Use a lighter pencil, obviously it's easier to erase. Okay, so from A we're going to go up to 1 because it's going to turn into 1. So A1, A1 over here. So it's the same length as this one over here. We're just going to duplicate that up. So A1. And we're going to come up from A, and then there would be 1 at the top. Here, there's 1. Okay, so this is what we did over here. So we've got our A1 and our A1 here, and we just went one way and then the other way. So let's go ahead and join these. So I'm just going to use my square. And this corner should be square. If it's not, if it's a little bit short, then there's something wrong here. So what you'd have to do is take the 440 and take your flexible ruler, divide this into 4, so you'd be 110 for each quadrant, just to kind of see where you're at for a length. Okay, so looking not too bad there, pretty close. But this should be square. It doesn't look too bad. Looks pretty close. Okay, it's right there. We'll do one on the other side. And then we'll do another little double check at the end as well. Show you the double check. Just to make sure everything's square. Okay, so just to snake that in, what we could do is you could take your longer ruler and you can actually, where this wing is here, you can bring it up off the page and extend it up and extend this one up. Extend your center line up. And then you can, let's see what's on here. Use your longer dividers here. Hopefully these ones are long enough. don't think it would have reached otherwise. Put this at the top. Now we're kind of getting into radial line now, aren't we? That's just kind of what's happening here. You can double check it like this. We've got to tighten that. And those all line up there, all the way across. That looks pretty good. Just going to strike an arc here. Darken that in a little bit. There. The only problem is you can't find that point coming off this drawing over here. We've tried, we've dissected this before. We tried to figure out how we can do this, but just coming up, it's just radial line is not a method. But you can double check this with a radial line. And then you can also double check these wings as well. So you can double check that it should hit here, here, and here. And then also what you can do is you can double check this corner to corner across and making sure it's square as well. Okay, so for that one there, and then what we'll do is we'll just we'll call these bend lines. There will be another process for bend lines, kind of like how we did the cone. Same sort of thing, how we figure out our bend line to bend line. It'll come off the round end, off of here, and it all has to do with the V block opening. We'll come up here, and then we'll have a little markup sheet, so we can go ahead and mark up these patterns here. I don't actually think I have mine on me, but that's okay. We'll be able to make do here. Okay, so for that one there, and then we'll just call those bend lines for now. So we'll call this obviously the center line, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go through and identify this again. So you're going to put your name here, the date, this is we'll call it drawing 1. This is a square to round. It's a half pattern. Like that. Then we'll go ahead and what gets sheared, that would get sheared. We wouldn't be able to shear this, so what we'll do is we'll burn it. And we'll burn this, and we'll burn this, and we'll burn here. The only other thing about this is when we're out in the shop, if you go to bend this, it won't kind of bend this area. So kind of what you need to do is put a little tab right here. Like that. There'll be a tab. Because then when you bend it, after you're done bending it, you'll cut the tab off. I'm just going to rough mine in for here. I guess that's another reason we probably couldn't shear that, could we? Yeah, we'll have to turn that into a burn line. Turn this into a burn line. Just kind of going the extra step here, putting that little tab on, identifying that. And then the roll directions here. So form up 2. And this would be 140 on here. And there'll be a little checkoff sheet you can find. And also when you're bending these, oh, I forgot a line. When you're bending these, you have to do a little slit in the top just to allow this to come around 90. So this will be, these are all bend lines here, just like this. We use these little diamond shapes for our bend lines. And you can calculate what each bend is. And this one actually shares this bend line, so this is a half bend. So this is a half bend. So this would be a, I'll put a half on this side. Just for your calculations, right? And this will be a full bend. Okay? And that'll be the universal all the way over. So just by doing some math and dividing out the circle and figuring out what each one of those are. Okay, and these will be the bends over here as well. Same as like when we did bump bending on the J hook, You know, when something comes up tangent, it's a half bend. But in this case here, it shares it. So this bend shares with this bend, so it doubles up for this bend here, right? So essentially we can take the circle here, this is 6, and we can just do the 360 divided by the 12, and we're basically 30, right? So this would be a 30, this would be a 30, and these would be 15. There's your half bends, right? Full bends, half bends. And then there would be a pattern. You do all your half bends first, and then you do your full bends after. Okay, same as bending up a cone. You're always kind of working to center, so you don't lock yourself out of the machine. Okay, so half bends first. It's a bit of a funny one to bend up, because as you bend one, it actually takes the bend out of the other one beside it. So sometimes you have to overbend these a little bit. They're a little bit tricky to bend, especially with metal fabrication. Sheet metal, real easy. You can massage it with your hands. Thicker material, definitely a little bit tougher. Okay, that's pretty good for the first one. One other thing. There'll be a template here that you can print off full scale. Again, just stick it up to the window. Double check that it's good. And then that's good. All right. That's number 1. It's good, thanks.